Hey everyone, this is Mike and welcome to my guide to E7 Savage, the fight that looks very overwhelming at first, but once you understand the mechanics it's actually not too bad. The main mechanic of this fight is going to be light and darkness. That's mainly going to be towards the second half of the fight, and then also the portals. Now, first attack that he does right there is Empty Wave. This is just a raid-wide AoE, so just mitigate through this. After this, there's going to be a Tank Buster coming up. Now, this Tank Buster is pretty much similar to that of O12 Savage, if you've ever done Final Omega. Now, it will tether one of the two tanks. You don't need to be first and second in aggro for this one, though. So just one of the tanks will get tethered, they'll get an AoE on their face, and they will get Magic Vulnerability up. After this first AoE, there's going to be a second one that does damage again as well. Now, there's two ways to handle this. Either you have the tank using Invuln, like our Paladin used Hallowed Ground right here, or later down into the fight you're going to see this Tank Buster again, where our off tank, or the other tank that is not being targeted, is going to be blocking, basically, the damage. So you have either Invuln, or your first tank takes the first hit, and then the second tank goes standing in front of them to block the second hit. Do make sure that you use a cooldown for both of those. Now, right after this, there's going to be two portals spawning in the back of the map. I'm not going to be turning my camera because these positions are fixed. There's going to be a red portal on the left and a blue portal on the right, which will spawn right about now. There's actually quite a lot of downtime at the start of this fight. If you're a DPS, you're literally just not doing anything. Oh, I actually do turn my camera right there. So as you can see, red on the left, blue on the right. And that is going to be important for the next mechanic. So over here, we're gonna have both of these explode first, or go through the arena first, and then these two second. Now, they can spawn in different configurations. They can spawn 2 on 2 like they do now. They can do, like, for example, one here, and then here on the left, and then on the right, or the reverse again as well. So, there's a couple of different ways that they can spawn, but there will also only be one portal that goes off first, of course. So we know red first, blue second. And then we have this. I'm gonna rewind a tiny bit so that you can see the portals a little bit better. But basically we have 4 portals on each side. We have 4 here, 4 on the side that we are standing, and then 2 in the middle that were there at the start. Now, to know how you have to handle this mechanic, it's actually really simple. So we know that red is going off first, blue is going off second. Now, since there are no portals on the third most tiles at the edge of the arena, I guess you could say, these are basically all safe spots. So we have 4 safe spots on this side, we have 4 safe spots on this side. You can also stand in the middle of the arena if you want to be, like, a little bit more dangerous, I guess you could say. But I would highly recommend you don't do it, because it's going to make the mechanic a lot harder for you, because you're going to have to be dodging diagonally. And like this, you only just have to, like, move over one tile, so it's a lot easier. Now, the way on how you know how you have to dodge the next one is to see where they are going to go in. And the easy trick to finding out about how you have to do that is to see if this portal is the same color as the portal right across from it. So since red and red, it means that the pattern won't change. If this was, for example, red and this portal was blue, then the pattern would change. So I'm gonna just show you what happens. So red goes off first, then we dodge into it, then blue goes off second. Since red and blue went into the same portal, it's going to stay the same, so red goes off again first this time around as well, but this time it's going to be flying into a blue portal, so meaning that blue is gonna go off next. So red goes off, blue goes off, and then this time around blue is gonna go first. So we just stay here, blue goes off, and then red goes off. And that is the end of the mechanic. So that's really the only thing you have to look out for. Look at which of the AoEs is going in first, then position yourself on the other color, and then you just alternate in between the two of them, and then make sure that if you see if the colors are the same or if they're different. I'm just going to show you the mechanic again, so that you can see where you basically have to stand. And if you stand on the 1 and the 2 tiles that you can see over here, that's going to make the mechanic so much more easier. Later down into the fight, you're also going to have to do this with, like, changing debuffs and stuff like that. So having a good understanding on how this portal mechanic works is very important. So red goes into red, meaning that the pattern will stay the same. So we move back into our blue safe spot. These portal positions, by the way, these ones on the side, it's only the ones in the middle that will... well, actually no, the ones in the middle are the same as well. But basically all of the portals on the right side and on the back will always stay the same. It's only the ones on the front over here and the one on the side that I am standing that are going to be switching positions, and they only indicate which one is going to go first. So we have red into blue again, but this time blue is going to go first because they switched positions on the back. So we stay here on the red portal, and then it goes blue into red. Always know the right side and the back side are the ones that they originate from. The front as well as the left side is where they disappear into. So that's how you know whether or not they are going to be changing in colors, yes or no. It's a pretty difficult mechanic when you first see it, but actually not that bad once you understand the trick to it. Betwixt Worlds, for this one you want to be standing in the middle of the arena because there will be a knockback, and you also kind of need to be in this middle slice for the next mechanic that is going to happen, which is Words of Spite. Now, there's going to be a lot of AoEs on the field in just a second, but don't worry, it's actually a whole lot easier than you think it might be. When he does away with V, this is going to be giving you a teleport ability. It's the same that was there in the normal mode. Basically, everyone gets a little debuff over here, as you can see, left with V, and then there's three different other ones as well, where you go front, back, or to the right. Now, to make this mechanic a little bit easier, they also gave you these big AoE indicators that you can see all over the fight. Basically, what this is going to do for you is when the mechanic reaches 0, or when the timer on the debuff reaches 0, you're going to teleport to the other side of your portal, I guess we'll call it. And this is going to be very important because we are going to have to teleport through these purple walls that you see right here. Now, together with this, DPS are also tethered to these 4 like paper planes, I guess I'll call them for now. But the 4 DPS are tethered to these paper planes. These are AoEs through the arena, so they need to be baited in specific parts of the arena as well to not cleave other people. And then both of your healers are gonna get an AoE, and your tanks are gonna get nothing. So I'm just gonna show you how it resolves first, and then I'll show you a little diagram to show you how we handle the whole mechanic. So there's a lot of AoEs on the field. It looks very overwhelming, but then everything resolves, people go into their place, and then we go from there. It does a lot of damage as well though, so do make sure that you mitigate this one. But I'll turn up a picture real quick. So this is basically the position that your whole team needs to be in when it resolves. So everyone starts in the middle. Then we have the DPS that are tethered. The ones that are tethered to the middle ones need to make sure that they just go straight through the arena. The ones that are tethered to the side ones need to make sure that you make some kind of a cross formation. And then your healers and your tanks, they go left and right. This can be predetermined positions. So for example, say in our case, Scholar and Paladin always go left, Astrologian and Warrior always go right. Fixed positions makes it so much easier. And then for the DPS, you just have to adjust depending on which of the paper planes that you are tethered towards. So these are the positions that you have to end up in to make sure nobody gets clipped, because the healers and the tanks do get a magic vulnerability up. So I'm gonna go take it from the start again. Away with V. You get your debuffs. You see, for example, I am tethered to one of the middle ones, so I'm just gonna go towards the edge of the arena on the middle slice. I pre-position myself for the away with the mechanic. I teleport to the back. And then as you can see, line straight to me, line straight to whoever is standing here, I can't see it. And then we have a line going across like this, a line going across like this, and then we have 1 stack marker here and 1 stack marker here. Also make sure you don't stand too close to the boss, because these AoEs are fairly big. And then all of the AoEs go out, and then everybody can just run back towards the boss, because if I'm not mistaken, there is going to be an AoE right after this one. So make sure that you follow up with some healing and some mitigation so that everybody can safely survive this one. Then we have another tank buster. As you can see, this time, since our Paladin already used his hallowed ground, our Warrior is gonna stand in front with the cooldown and take the damage like that. You can even hit the party with this, because the second hit does not do a crazy amount of damage, but it's just extra healing, so I wouldn't recommend it. Just have your co-tank go stand in front. Now, right after this, I'm actually a little bit too slow, we have Wards of Motion into False Moonlight. For this one, everybody stack up in the middle of the arena to bait these AoEs. They are gonna spawn right as False Moonlight finishes casting, and then whilst this is going on, everybody is going to be getting an AoE on them, as well as you need to dodge both of the paper planes coming out on both of the sides. The way how you handle this is always the same, since the positions of these paper planes are fixed. So what you do is, you stack up in the middle, you go to your predetermined positions. If you've ever done E3 Savage Leviathan, this is kind of similar to how you handle Tsunami, I believe, or one other mechanic, basically something from Leviathan. It looks very much similar to it. But you stand on the innermost tile because the outward ones are gonna go off first, and then once your AoE puddles drop, that's also when the outer ones explode. So this is basically the same dodge that you're always going to be doing. It's never inside into outside. It's always outside into inside first. And then everybody stands at the edge. Make sure that you heal up for the next mechanic, because we're gonna get an away with thee again. So everybody gets that teleport one. And then at False Midnight, everybody gets their roll. Now, the rolls again are predetermined. Tanks and healers will get this big AoE on their face. The DPS either get nothing or they get a stack marker. So, to handle this mechanic, very simple. We're making it so that our tanks are in the front, our healers are in the back, and all of our DPS are in the middle, stacked together. So when this away with the debuff is going to finish, that is when we are all going to teleport towards the middle, because the middle explodes first, and the edge explodes second. So we're gonna teleport in. You see that these are gonna go off. We have our 2 tanks in the front, we have our 2 healers in the back with these big AoEs, and then all of the DPS are stacked in the middle with the AoE marker. And that is the end of the first phase of the fight. After this, we're going to be going into a add phase, where we're going to be splitting into 2 groups of 4. We're going to be splitting 2 DPS with a tank and a healer on each add. Now, there are 3 adds in total. We have 2 idolatries and 1 blasphemy. The blasphemy is an uncontrollable add. This will either go clockwise or counterclockwise around the arena, and you basically want to make sure that the other 2 adds do not come close to them or to each other. If the adds are too close to each other, they will tether, and they'll get a big vulnerability down on them, so you basically won't really do much damage. The whole phase is basically about just running clockwise or counterclockwise, making sure you're stacked together with your team, because you're going to periodically get these big AoE markers on your face, and just DPS down the 2 adds together. The 2 idolatries need to be killed at the same time, because once one of the idolatries dies, the second one is going to start casting its enrage. As you can see right here, Advent of Light is also a cast bar that needs to be stunned. We have no idea what happens when you let this go through, because we've always silenced it so far, but most likely bad things will happen if you do not silence this, so make sure you have interject, or whatever it's called, on your hotbar. Now, as these big AoE markers are going out, the Blasphemy is periodically also going to be doing those line AoEs. These seem to be baited on players, so when this stack marker goes out that you just saw, you will need to make sure that you're dodging to the correct position. The way that we did it is always keep dodging into the way that you are moving. So for example, if you go clockwise, if those AoE spawn during the stack marker, go clockwise as well, so that everybody stays stacked together. You can survive the stack marker with 3 people, but it is of course a lot safer if you do it with 4. Next mechanic that's gonna come up is Strength in Numbers. Now the first one is always the same, which is going to be a dynamo mechanic. So everybody needs to stack up underneath their bosses, because as you can see, it's going to be a bunch of big dynamos. And then we have Away with Thee again. So same teleport mechanic as last time. Gonna be handling this going into the same direction as we are going. So since we're going counterclockwise, we are going to be jumping counterclockwise as well. And the reason why we're doing this is because we are going to be getting a stack marker. So one person gets a stack marker, and then everybody jumps towards the same place, unlike our Astrologian here. So as you can see, you can survive with 3 people, but we did have a Seraphic Veil as well as a Shake It Off. So preferably do it with 4, but if not, you can still mitigate and do it with 3. After this one, we're gonna get another Strength in Numbers. But this time around it's going to be random which one you're getting. So this one, for example, is upright, meaning this one will do the dynamo. This one, the one that I'm attacking, is now on the floor, like kind of more horizontal, and this means he's going to do a chariot. If you don't know what dynamo and chariot are, it's basically attacks from Nail Days Darkness from UCOB, or from T9 I believe it is. But basically this is kind of like a donut AoE. This is a getaway from me AoE. So me and the ninja are just gonna go and attack the other ad here real quick, so that we make sure that we are inside the dynamo here and outside of the chariot there. And then we're gonna go back to our ads, because we of course do get this big AoE, so you do want to be stacked with your predetermined pairs again. And then after this, it's basically just making sure that both of the idolatries die at the same time. So make sure that not one dies too fast. Explosion is the enrage cast, so just make sure that that does not go off, of course. And then we all go on to the Blasphemy. The Blasphemy has very little HP, so it's gonna die very fast. It's also gonna start spamming AoEs here, so just use Reprisal or Addle. I like to Addle this one, for example. The AoEs don't do too much damage, but still any mitigation that you can put on them is fairly nice. But do make sure that you don't use too much, because Empty Flood, which is being cast right here, is a very hard hitting AoE, so make sure you have plenty of mitigation for this one. And then we go into phase 2. This one is all about colors, which you'll see in just a second. Unjoined Aspect is going to give all of your players either a light or a dark debuff. Now I believe that throughout the whole fight this will always be 4 players white, 4 players black. And the way you handle this is just the same as in normal mode: get hit with the opposite color. First mechanic that's gonna happen is left and right will either spawn white or black paper planes, and then 2 people will get a stack marker. What is very important on this one is, as you can see, there is a tether again, so you need to be standing all the way on the edge of the paper planes that you are tethered to. Not only that, but you also need to make sure that your tank is standing in front, because the first hit that is going to be dealt to you has increased damage on it. So everybody stack up in the same line as your paper planes are tethered towards. Your tank is standing in front and you have the opposite color of the paper planes. And then all the AoEs go out. This does a lot of damage as well, by the way, so make sure you mitigate this by quite a bit. After this, we are going to be baiting the next mechanic. There's going to be 4 towers that are going to be spawning, and there's going to be 4 hands, as we like to refer to them. They're basically the paper planes again, but if you've done O11 Savage, Omega, this is kind of like the hand mechanic that pushes you across the arena, so you'll see how we handle that. Now the hands, or in this case the paper planes, are baited by distance, so the closest player to the hand will get tethered to them, and then they can kind of position it around the arena, as you'll see in just a second. The 4 corners of the arena will get meteors, which we are going to put our DPS into. Now it will always be 2 white and 2 black meteors, and it will always be 2 white and 2 black paper planes, I'll just call them for now as well. So you can either do this on the fly, kind of, to get more melee uptime or something like that, but to just keep it simple and to make as little mistakes as possible, we made it so that our tanks and healers would always go towards the paper planes, and our DPS players would always go towards the meteors. So our tanks and healers are gonna get slightly closer towards these paper planes, so that they bait the tethers, which will spawn right about now. So as you can see, all of our people are tethered towards their paper planes, and then the towers will spawn, which meaning that since I have a white debuff, I am going to go and stand in a black tower. And then as you can see, you can kind of move these ads around as well. These will do a big cleave across the arena, so make sure that you are on either the left or the right tile. Everybody needs to do this, by the way, so just talk about this with your group. Either everybody goes standing on the leftmost tile on the on their side of the arena, or stand on the rightmost tile on their side of the arena. You can kind of do it differently as well, but I would just suggest choose one of the two and let everybody just take the same position, so that you make the least amount of mistakes. We did leftmost tile because that meant that our tank that is on the right side is still gonna be able to keep uptime of the boss. And then you can kind of see what it looks like right here. So leftmost tile, leftmost tile, leftmost tile, and then our astrologian is over here and then all of our DPS are in the corners taking their meteors. And then the mechanic will resolve. These things also give physical vulnerability up on the people. I think it is physical vulnerability up. So basically you do not want to overlap them. They also deal a lot of damage. As you can see, both of our healers are very low. So you definitely do not want to get hit by two of them. Then we all go back into the middle, because it is another Words of Unity, which is going to be stack markers again. So make sure that you heal up and mitigate for this. Tanks in front of the party. As you can see, our paladin is also using a defensive cooldown to make sure he takes the least amount of damage as possible. And then everybody loses their color, but fret not, we're all gonna get that color again right about now with the next unjointed aspect. But this time around, it's with portals. So again, like at the start of the fight, red portal is on the left, blue portal is on the right. But this time around, instead of going one at a time, these colors are gonna fly through the arena both at the same time. So you need to not only keep track of which color is coming out of which portal, you also need to keep track of what color debuff you have. And there is gonna be some other stuff happening as well. So in this case, the white debuff, always keep track of one of them, by the way. The way we handled this is we had one person do the callouts, and they said, white color is coming out of X portal. So in this case, white is coming out of red, and then everybody else had to adjust for themselves. So everybody switches their debuffs. We remember, white comes out of red, and then the portals are gonna stay the same, because we have blue portal here, we have blue portal here, so white stays in red. Colors go out, everybody switches. Now, before you move to the next safe spot, everybody needs to make sure that they move towards the middle, because we are going to get falls down, and this is going to put AoEs on all of the players. So remember, white comes out of red. That's the first thing that we need to think of. Now, since, as you can see again, wait, I'll just rewind real quick. So everybody stacks middle for the AoEs. And now, as you can see, red portal, blue portal, meaning that white is going to go from red to blue for the next one. So, colors go out, everybody gets their AoE, also make sure you do not overlap these. And now, white is going into blue, so again, make sure you adjust correctly for this one. And there we go, that is the end of the mechanic. This one is hands down the hardest mechanic in this whole fight, but once you know what to do, if you have somebody calling out all of the mechanics, this is going to be so much easier. So I'm just gonna go through it again so you can see what happens. So we have our two portals in the back here. Then we have the paper planes spawning in front, make sure you're on the opposite color. White is going into red. So move into the correct safe spot. Again, white is coming out of red, and it is staying the same because red on red, blue on blue. So white will stay in red. Everybody moves towards the middle to bait the falls down AoEs. Remember, white is still in red. This time around, red blue, blue red, meaning they're gonna switch. White is going to come out of blue next time. Since you do switch your color here, it is going to switch back because of this AoE puddle. Make sure you don't overlap this one. White is blue, so move to the correct one. And then the final AoE goes out, and then everybody stacks middle. After this, another empty wave to just AoE damage mitigate through this one. And then another tank buster. This one is going to be home ganged, I believe. At this point, if you used Hallowed Ground on the first one, Hallowed Ground should be back for this one as well, if I am not mistaken. And then we are going to go into the final phase. Now, the final phase is a bit of a clusterfuck at first. It's very easy to die there as well, since it can get a bit hectic and is a little bit tight for space sometimes as well. But first things first. So, people are going to get knocked back. Make sure that you get knocked back into a corner of the arena, because if you get knocked back to like a normal space, you're going to fly off the arena. There's a few important things to know here. First things first, do not go into the boss's hitbox too far, because the boss will just knock you out and kill you one shot. So don't get too close to the boss. Second thing to know is we're going to be splitting depending on which debuff you have. If you're a tank, you go south. If you are a black debuff, you go on the northeast side. If you're a light debuff, you're going to be going on the northwest side. In our case, 2 marker and 1 marker. So everybody stacks up, we get healed. Unjointed aspect, we are going to be getting our debuffs here. As you can see, I have the black one, so I am going to 2. All of our light people are going to 1, and then our 2 tanks are here at south. These positions are always fixed, and what is going to happen next is also always fixed. So you can determine these positions at all points. Now, what's going to happen here is the boss is going to be basically throwing AoEs out in kind of a like circular pattern, and he's going to twist them around as well. Whilst that is happening, there's going to be orbs spawning on all of the sides, and they need to be soaked by the opposite color players. If you soak an orb of the same color, you're gonna die, which you're gonna see happen to our Dragoon. And these also explode in an AoE vicinity, so you do need to make sure you're far enough away from each other. Now, since it's always going to be 2 tanks, a healer and 2 DPSs, you can also kind of give them a priority system. So in our group, for example, we did ranged soaks first, melee second, and then healer last. Just to make sure that everybody knew who was going to go where and that we didn't have to call out too many things. This also made it so that, like, for example, if me and the Bard were together, then the Bard would go first or I would go first or something like that. Then you could make a call out. But if you get melee ranged, it would basically make it a lot easier and keep comms clear, because that is going to be very important. So first orbs spawn, everybody goes and takes them. As you can see, they do explode in a fairly big AoE. So make sure you do not touch the other players, because it will get them killed later down the line. And then also the AoEs from the boss are going to go and circle around as well. Second set spawns, make sure you give them enough space. Just keep moving clockwise or counterclockwise. It's always counterclockwise, by the way. You will always be moving into the same direction. And then the third set spawns. As you'll see, our Dragoon is a little bit too close to our Astro, so he's going to eat the AoE and die. And then everybody stacks up south for the Threefold Grace. What you have to do here is basically you go and stand into the opposite color. And this happens 3 times as well, and it will also do a decent amount of damage, so make sure that you heal up the party for this one. And then we have our final color. And then we go into 2 AoEs. So make sure you mitigate these and heal up as well. And then we're gonna do this mechanic again. So second AoE goes out. Everybody gets healed up. And then we just take the same positions as we did before. So our tanks are staying south. Black is going to 2. White is going to 1. Everybody gets their debuffs. I got black again. So again, I'm going over here. There is plenty of time for you to move into position, and then again we are going to be taking our debuffs whilst we are rotating counterclockwise together with the boss. Second DPS takes theirs, and then the last orb is going to be for our healers, which again, give them enough space just to make sure that you do not get hit. It's better to disengage for 1 GCD or something like that than it is to die and basically lose a lot more damage. Another Threefold Grace, which is going to be 3 times again. Make sure you're in the opposite color. Also make sure you're healed up, because it does do a fair amount of damage. And then after this, it's just going to be AoE spam again into Enrage. Enrage on this one is fairly lenient. As you can see, our Dragoon died twice, our tank died once as well, and we didn't even get close to the Enrage cost. So the Enrage is fairly lenient on this one. I've also seen people use strats where they just literally sack people if they have wrong colors because they didn't spread correctly. But once you know that it's basically tanks in the back, light on 1, black on 2, that you will basically always be in the same position and you will have the correct amount of people on each side. And that's gonna be E7 Savage. If you have any more questions about the fight, feel free to ask them in the comments or drop something on the Discord, because I'm always online over there as well. Since we are still progging E8 Savage, I am 100% sure that we will not kill this by tonight. So for tomorrow, instead of having the E8 Savage guide up, I'm going to be posting the guide on the Ruby weapon instead. So that's gonna be it for me. Hope it was helpful. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.